In this video, we're going to continue with section 2.5 special angles on parallel lines. This is day 2 of the notes. In this video, we're going to be talking about converses so that we can get to the converse of the parallel line conjectures that we looked at in the last video. So let's look at some vocabulary here for converse. We have a conditional statement. Conditional just means that this is some statement in the form if then. So this is an if something then something else statement. Okay, and we'll just call those conditional statements. Again, a little vocabulary you need to remember so that when you hear the word conditional statement, you just remember that it's a statement in the form if this then something else. So here's our conditional statement. If you have visited the Statue of Liberty, then you have been to New York. So we have two parts of this statement. We have what's called the hypothesis. So the first part here, this is called the hypothesis, which you may have heard from science. Then you have been to New York. We have this part here, you have been to New York. This is called the conclusion. So we have the hypothesis and the conclusion. So when we talk about the converse, what we want to do is we want to take our original conditional statement and we want to flip the hypothesis and the conclusion. So if I was going to write the converse of this original statement, I would write, if you have been to New York, then you have visited the Statue of Liberty. So all I did was I switched these two parts. I switched the hypothesis, which I have highlighted in yellow, with the conclusion, which I have highlighted in blue, and we have what's called the converse. Alright, so we've got 4 examples here. What I want you to do is I want you to work on these 4 examples, and then when you come back, you'll see the solutions. And if you need to make corrections, go ahead and pause the video and make your corrections. And also, if you have questions, make sure you ask questions when you see your teacher next. So pause the video. Maybe if you highlight the hypothesis and conclusion of each, then you can it makes it easier to see what you're switching around for the converse. And again, when you restart, the solutions will be there, and I'll give a quick explanation. So here are the solutions for these 4 example problems. You notice I've highlighted the hypothesis and conclusion for each. And that way I have a visual of what I'm actually switching to get the converse. And also keep in mind, when we're finding the converse of a statement written in English, sometimes you have to use a little bit of common sense so that your sentence also makes sense. So for the first one, our converse is, if an animal is a bird, then it is also an owl. This is false, and if it's false, you want to provide a counter example. Counter example. Okay, so this is just one example why it's not always true. So it's false because a sparrow is an animal and a bird. Okay, so not all animals that are birds are owls. It could be a sparrow as well. Alright, part B. The converse would be, if 2 lines are perpendicular, then they form right angles. Okay, again, you just use some common sense when you're writing these so that your statements make sense. This is true. 2 lines are perpendicular, they always form right angles. That's true. Part C, if an angle is obtuse, then it measures 130 degrees. So that's false because not every obtuse angle measures 130 degrees, and that's what this statement says. For example, counterexample, 125 degrees is also an obtuse angle. Again, our counterexample. And part D, if 2 angles are congruent, then they are adjacent. Okay, that is false as well. The following are congruent but not adjacent. So I have a 30-degree angle on the left and a 30-degree angle on the right. Again, they are congruent but not adjacent. Alright, so again, if you have any questions, make sure you ask. We have some vocabulary here. We have converse, hypothesis, conclusion, counterexample. Alright, so if you're keeping a list of vocabulary, you may want to add those. Alright, so all of this is to lead us to the converse of the parallel lines conjecture, which we talked about in the last set of videos. And that said that if we knew two lines were parallel, then some very special things happened with the special angle pairs. It turns out that any of the special angle pairs are either congruent or supplementary. So now we're going to go the other way. So it says if two lines are cut by a transversal to form a pair of congruent corresponding angles, congruent alternate interior angles, congruent alternate exterior angles, or supplementary same side interior and exterior angles, then the lines are, so if any of these conditions are met, that means that our lines are parallel. So as far as the problems that we're going to work on, really they're not going to be much different. You just may need to find values that will make the lines parallel instead of knowing they're parallel already. So what you may want to do is work through these examples, and I'll have solutions for these up in the classroom so you can check, and we will see you in the next video.